All right, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Breakthroughs with Bre, where we are having breakthroughs about our personal and spiritual development, all in living our most authentic and joyful and peaceful lives. My name's Bre. I'm an Akashic Records channeler, energy healer, astrologer, and spiritual and personal development coach. And today is part 3 of my conversation with Tina about relationships. We just could not get enough. There was so much channeling through us on this. So I really hope that you enjoy this last episode. And what's fun little surprise here is that we have JP, Tina's husband, that comes on at the end of the episode to answer a few questions too. So I hope that you guys enjoy. Before we get into the episode with Tina, I'm jumping in to give a few announcements since we recorded this episode a few weeks ago, and there's some time sensitive things I want you guys to know about. First of all, my one-to-one coaching program, Soul Path, is closing its doors on Friday, October 27th. Closing enrollments at this time. If you have really resonated with the kind of breakthroughs that we're having on this podcast, first of all, I would love to recommend you to go to my Instagram at Healing with Bre because I do a lot of short form videos and content to help support this kind of thing in between the episodes. I do card pulls. It's really fun. Go there. If you are really trying to do this work with yourself, or you're trying to learn how to do it, or if you just want to take it to the next level by getting some support, that's what my one-to-one coaching program is for. I really wanted a sort of like therapy-like experience, but that was really more focused on deepening our connection to ourself, our soul self, our intuition, on doing really deep healing work, like shadow work, like reprogramming limiting beliefs, and really stepping into more of like a 4D and 5D way of interacting with the world, which is really interacting with the world from more of a soul perspective. So if that is something that you've been looking to do, and having somebody to help support you and reflect some things back to you in a container for that experience to happen, please check out my Soul Path program on my website, healingwithbre.net. There's a tab for coaching program, and all of the details, pricing, 3 months, 6 months is all on the website. And it will be open for enrollment until Friday, October 27th. Any future coaching programs that I do will have a little bit of a different flavor and objective. So if you're interested, book a discovery call there. On that discovery call is when we will talk about what that program would look like for you uniquely, what you'd want to get out of it, what kind of goals you want, what it means to you to be more soul aligned. And we can talk about if I genuinely feel like this program could support you and how it could. And we would talk about enrollment after that. So I just wanted you guys to know about that since that is time sensitive. The other ways you can work with me is my single session Akashic Records channeling, where a ton of information from your spirit teams, your Akashic Records keepers gets channeled through about exactly where breakthroughs can be supportive to you and other information that can really help you tap into the most of this moment. And whatever that means for you comes through. I do those on Fridays whenever I have availability. So you can check out my site, healingwithbre.net, for those. Those are your ways to work with me. I would love to support you with those services. That's why I offer them, is because it's so exciting and it's so moving to see how these kinds of things can really change people's lives. So if you feel drawn to that, then please check out my website or go to my Instagram page, hang out with there for me a while, so that those things can be of help to you too. Now we can enjoy the episode. Thanks, everyone. Okay, coming into another fun hot topic, sex.
Mm,
Sex lives and
it's a good
relationships.
one.
Good one. Again, it's
A
another
good one.
area that kind of reflects back other things going on in the relationship.
Yep.
What are some of like the we can get into it more, but like what are some of the top tips or things that you would recommend to people about them thinking about managing to the part of their relationship that is their sex life?
I remember when I was early married and I had two little kids, and I remember thinking I just didn't want somebody to want something else from me. Instead of thinking that this was something that was building my relationship. And I loved my husband and was very attracted to him, but I was exhausted. I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I
Mhm.
remember thinking, oh my God, just don't want anything from me. Right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that we had a bad sex life. It wasn't that at all. It was
Mhm.
just, I was wrapped up in my head.
Yeah.
Um, don't take yourself so seriously. And don't think that those 10 extra pounds are the end of your relationship, right? So let's get really personal. I'm 62. I've been sick for 20, I was sick for 21 years. I have insulin resistance. Didn't know that. Couldn't lose weight. I gained a lot of weight, and I was, had a really nice figure in the beginning of our relationship. And I really let that hold me back because I was embarrassed, right? Didn't want to get undressed, didn't want, the whole thing. And you know what I found out? He just loves me. He doesn't care. He's like, T, I'm not perfect. What do you think? What do
Yeah.
you think? So even at 62, you can still feel self-conscious.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's about loving the other person, right? And have fun. I don't know. That's what I would tell you. Have fun. And
Yeah.
it's not over when you're 60. So I think, to be honest with you, it gets better and better because you are less self-conscious and you just kind of, we do a lot of laughing, and not laughing in a good way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not laughing at each other, laughing with each other.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. But make time for it. I don't care if you I'll tell you one little thing I did when I was really ill. I was exhausted and in so much pain. It was actually really hard, very difficult. It was difficult for me because I was in so much pain, and he was so patient with me. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is what I'm asking of him, right? So I started in my calendar, and I would put a heart in the days when we were intimate, right? And I went, oh my word, we are going far too long in between. So those little hearts, because I didn't realize how long it had been, right? Because I didn't feel well. So I started doing those little hearts, and it was really cool. I did it for about 6 or 8 months, and it was life-changing for both of us. So don't get too busy. Make time. It doesn't have to be at night when you go to bed either.
Yeah.
It's hard when you have children. I think when you have little ones, that's hard. It's hard to kind of find the space, and sometimes it does have to be at nighttime.
Yeah.
But if you're single and you don't have children, or you have a way to have time, it doesn't have to be when you're tired, right?
Yeah.
Find a few minutes here and there and just,
Yeah.
do the deed. Never thought I'd be talking about this on a podcast.
I love it. Oh my God, it's so important. Bring that taboo things
It is
out.
it's huge because it's really one of the thing that really ties you together. It's okay, how do I say this? It's the one thing that you don't do with anyone else.
Yeah. It's what distinguishes your relationship
There it
in a
is.
lot of
That's the
ways
word.
from
Yes.
other relationships.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have people you love and care about and spend time with, but that is something that is just between the two of you. Well, if that's what your choice is, for me, that's my choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't want anything different than that. So for me, that's why I say it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Here are some of the things that are coming through for me about the sex and relationships. First of all, it is an energetic exchange between you and your partner.
Absolutely.
Where and how you are exchanging energy in the other parts of your relationship influence and impact this. This is important to attend to in every way you are exchanging energy. If your partner is not contributing energy into your relationship, of course you don't want to keep extending it in your sex life. Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
Right.
So attend to the exchange of energy in the relationship as a whole, period. Because sex is just another extension of energy exchange in the same way that money is also it's all just energy exchange. So if we just put it all in that category and you're able to look at it, like where and how are we really exchanging energy here? Like what value am I putting on the types of energy we're exchanging in different places? Is it equitable? Truly, is it equitable?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's when the sex life is really at its peak, is when your energy exchange is actually equal.
Yes. Yeah.
So are you an active participant in making sure your energy exchange is equal, which includes you identifying if there are needs and things and if things are unequal? Like that's also part of creating, okay, other thing about sex. Your sex life is going to be unique to what works for the two of you, your own
Yes.
goals, your ideas, what it feels nice, what doesn't feel nice. There are going to be people that want to have sex multiple times a day, and other people that want to have it like once a week, once every 2 weeks. There's not one
Mhm.
that is better or worse. So that means that you're in a better
Right.
relationship than others. So, like, take the shame off the table. What's most important is what you want and what your partner wants and
Yeah.
what you want for your relationship. Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Other thing about sex. I'll just say from my own perspective in a much shorter marriage than Tina has is that it will ebb and flow, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Again, don't judge yourself. Again, always just come back to connecting with your partner about what you want.
Yep.
Like if you both feel okay about the fact that it's changed a little bit in one way, cool. If you both know you kind of want it to be different in a little bit, cool. What's funny is I do the same thing. I track when we have sex, but like it's more just for like me tracking my cycles. I use the
Mhm.
thermometer to check what point I'm at in my cycles, which is really interesting. And on that same app, I use the natural cycles one. I track when we have sex. And again, it's just for visibility. It's not really like a judging thing, but it is
Right. Right.
important to kind of acknowledge like how often that's happening, if there's trends with that happening or not. Because I think it's we could easily get in our head about how much it is or isn't happening or something like
Yep.
that. And I think having that check-in visibility point can be kind of helpful. So that's kind of funny. That's something that I do too. Um,
And women
God,
think they have sex more often, and men think they have it less,
yeah,
typically.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Then I think, then what there really is kind of somewhere in the middle, usually.
yeah. Speaking of men, women dynamic and just as a culture, things that we're kind of coming back to, you don't owe anybody your sexual energy.
Absolutely not.
You don't owe it to anybody. You don't owe anybody your energy at all, frankly. Um, and sexual energy is not like worth more or less than other types of energy, too. Like just because maybe they're bringing in energy in the form of like money to the house, like does not mean that that's inherently more valuable
Right.
than like your sexual energy or
Right.
something, or like
Right.
your energy to keep the home. Like that's not less valuable. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
it's a piece of the pie.
100%. And
Mhm.
like again, like how you're evaluating those things is important.
Yeah.
Both people that you're on the same
Yep.
page with how you're evaluating that.
So being raised in a religious in a religious home and a church and stuff. So there were a lot of rules around sexuality and stuff. But I have an aunt, my wonderful aunt, auntie, I call her. When we got married, she got us a book about sex. And I remember thinking, I didn't know very much,
Hmm.
right? And we were so young, right? But we
Hmm.
were in Bible college, right? So we're in Bible college. So, so she got us a book. That was our wedding gift.
Wow.
And I've always thought kind of bold of her in such a good way,
Yep.
right? And if you and I thought, bless her heart, letting us know right up front, this is important.
Yeah.
Get this right,
Yeah.
right? Make this a priority. She
Yeah.
had a wonderful, wonderful marriage.
Mm,
And she's in her 80s now. Her husband's been gone a few years, but I know they had a really good life together right up. You could tell,
yeah.
right? You could
Yeah.
tell the attraction was there, that
Yeah.
come here, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and deacon in the church, and she was a Sunday school teacher, and but they got it, they had it right.
I love
They
it.
communicated. But I remember thinking, at the time I was kind of embarrassed. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, what a smart girl. She really let us know that's important.
Yeah.
This isn't about the dishes and the silverware. It's
Yeah.
about the two of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the last couple things I want to say that is very similar to what you're saying is one, I feel like um for me, what is connected to that and also very important is intimacy with your partner,
Mhm.
right? Like what I value just as much as sex, if sometimes not even more, is like being able to have moments of real intimacy,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like there can be nights where we're talking and we're skin to skin, like I'm touching his arm, he's touching my leg, or we're cuddling. And maybe we kiss or something and it doesn't lead to sex, but we're just having a moment where we're like genuinely sharing each other's presence and enjoying each other and like feel pleasure at the fact that we're connected
Yeah.
in whatever way we're being connected. And we feel really good about that, you know?
Yeah.
We're like being really vulnerable with each other, or maybe we're just having fun and we're laughing. And it was a moment where our full attention was just on each other and our connection, just on each other. Did nothing else, no phones, no TV, like just us.
Yeah.
like those moments to me are just as important, again, sometimes if not more important than sex.
Yeah.
And like it's important for those to be enough, you know? And if one partner doesn't value that, you know what I mean? Like again, kind of getting on the same page about what your goals are as a couple. Um, Again, I feel like sex is another extension of like what are your needs and are you making an effort to meet the other person's needs? Yes, it's an important part of the relationship, but and however that looks like it is for the two of you. Um, oh, what was the last thing I was going to say on it? Oh, I've heard a lot of podcasts talking about like if physiologically, like you really are not feeling like maybe capable of like getting and feeling turned on or like whatever that is, like there are actual like physical reasons why that might be happening.
Yeah.
So whether the man or the woman
Hmm.
in the relationship or any other kind of identifying person, if physiologically you are feeling like even though like emotionally you're feeling connected, like mentally you want to, like all that kind of stuff, like you think the person that you're with is actually an attractive person, like you are drawn to them in that like sexual attraction kind of way, but like sex is feeling hard, like please like go to a doctor, like look into like the physical, like there might actually be like things that are just enough off imbalanced that make that difficult.
Oh, hormones. Holy cow. Even
Yeah.
just women's hormones, like at your age, right?
Hmm.
This is a big childbearing years. And as you
Yeah.
get a little bit older, you're in perimenopause and then menopause. That's like the ladies that we work with. And it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk to somebody.
Yeah. And then my last thing, this is the last thing. In the same way that you might not have known how to resolve conflict and communicate, in the same way you might not have had financial literacy or skills, like even if you've had sex before your partner, like you don't know how to have sex with your partner in
Yeah.
exactly the way that works for, like let yourself
Right.
learn, you know,
Right.
like whether
Yeah.
you're buying the books or you're listening to the podcast or you're talking together, like let yourself learn about that part of your
About them.
relationship
Yeah.
too. And like um let yourselves like become more masters in that because that is a very important part of
Yes.
the relationship too.
Yep. Yep.
I love that. Okay. So let's like wrap this up with some marriage specific stuff. Um, in a committed relationship, maybe you're living together, maybe you're not. You've done all these things that we've talked about before. You feel like you're compatible, your values are aligned. They both have the capacity, the skills, and the motivation to actually show up and be the kind of partner that you want in the relationship, and you guys are thinking about getting married. Um, what do you got to say for people that are at that stage or thinking about getting married, they're preparing for marriage? Like what are your recommendations about things that they can be thinking about or whatever?
First thing I would say is go to marriage counseling.
Hmm.
Go to marriage counseling.
Hmm.
Definitely do that. Ask the questions. I think that's huge.
Hmm.
You've got to learn before you get married to ask the questions because once you're in it,
Hmm.
the stakes change,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so does the relationship because before you get married, you are kind of still trying to win that person. And
Mm.
once you get married, a lot of times we feel like we've won that person
Mm.
or we've won. So the fight is over, right?
Yeah.
Or the game is over.
Mm.
So I think you've got to get that out of your mind that this is a choice, right? It's a decision that you make.
Hmm.
And what else? I think really looking at what are the red flags, you know?
Hmm.
I know that I think maybe Michaela had said in her last podcast, it's not your friend's relationship. About them asking. I disagree with that a little bit. If people are constantly saying to you, are you sure? Like, are you sure about this? If you know you're doing all the things, right? And they're asking, just take a minute. It doesn't mean you walk out of the relationship. Just ask them, why do you keep asking me that? What are you seeing that you think I'm not seeing? And then make that decision for yourself.
Yes.
I think another thing is I would say to people is be aware of how you interact with their family and how you interact with their friends. Do they accept you? Do they make you feel part of their crew?
Hmm.
Right? John's mom called me a hound. I was a hound. Well, that's a good thing. I would never
Oh,
want to be
thank
called a
goodness.
hound,
About to
but that's
say,
a
like, whoa,
I
is
know,
that good?
no, but that's a good thing because it's her little dog pound, right? So it's a bird
Ah,
bulldogs. You're her dog pound. So I was a
wow.
hound. So she accepted me, right? his family has always accepted me with open arms. And that was, that has been a wonderful thing. And my family loves him.
Yeah.
Right. So those are big things to think about. If there's kids involved, you got to really look at that.
Whole other story.
The
Whole other
whole,
story.
it's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
It really is. It's hard. I mean, because you don't know
Yeah.
how to go into it. But I would say ask the questions, really look around you and see what's going on. But first and foremost, get counseling.
Yeah.
I don't care if you go to a life coach. I don't care who, go to your pastor, your rabbi. I
Yeah.
don't care who you go to. Just go to somebody who knows how to work with people and help you to understand, give you some guidelines of things maybe you haven't thought about, but you
100%.
got to ask the questions.
That's my number one recommendation too. Go to some sort of, even if things are great, even if things are
Yeah.
great,
It
especially
doesn't
if
mean they're
things are great,
bad, especially if
especially if
they're
things
good.
are great, that means you're
Right.
going to like expand your ability for them to continue to be great or get
Yeah.
better. I did
Right.
that with my husband too, and I'm very glad that we did. Um, some of my other things for that, I agree with everything that Tina just said. Um, I okay. If you feel nervous about getting married,
Mhm.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
Mhm.
But I think you do have to be honest with yourself about what you're feeling nervous about.
Yeah.
And again, this comes into your ability to know yourself and check yourself. Um, if you feel like a lot of anxiety and there's a lot of trends of people being like, are you sure? And like you have this feeling in your stomach that again, it might not even be that you guys need to break up, but like maybe like marriage isn't quite the right thing. Listen to that.
Yeah.
But I do think because of how much pressure we put on marriage as a society, that it is normal to have a little bit of nerves about getting married.
Absolutely. Yes.
So
My
I
daughter.
don't,
Yeah.
so I just don't think you should like, I guess what I'm saying is like being nervous is not an indication that you're not meant to get married. That's my
Yes.
take on it.
Yes.
Because I felt a little bit of nerves for sure. But the way that I thought about it to myself is that, okay, what I'm nervous about is like the future and what might happen, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
would I regret in this moment not getting married because of nerves? Like, do I honestly feel like this is the best choice for me in this moment? Like,
In this
not being
moment.
able to control or see the future.
Right.
Like, do I really feel like current Bre is making the best
Yeah.
choice for her in this moment with all of the information that she has available to her? Like, if she's
Yeah.
really being honest with herself, right? And I
Yeah.
really felt like that was the case. I could live with myself if for some reason down the road things went sideways or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I could live with that because I knew that, like, in this moment, this really did feel like all the signs were pointing to yes,
Yeah.
that like I had the best chance of a really long, happy life, that
With
this
it.
was
Yeah.
a relationship that I felt so good about and felt so healthy and so full of love and so full, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that
I
felt
do.
like in any time that I felt a little bit of nerves or anxiety, like that, like was
Yeah.
really like my answer for that. Um, so yeah, and I think that the talk of like the family and the in-laws and stuff, I have another question on that, so I'll just save my other thoughts on that, but I entirely agree with you. And then my other thing, if you're like actually getting married, I love people who just don't do big weddings.
Yes. I
Don't
was, I
the
was going to
stress
say
of
that.
it brings out the crazy in people.
Mhm.
And
Buy
if
a
you are gonna
house.
do it,
Use the money. Buy a house.
honestly, 100%. I loved
Yeah.
having being able to bring people together and I loved having photos of it.
Have a
Like
party.
those were the things that I valued enough to spend money in because that's really all money
Yeah.
is an expression of what we value. Uh, if you are gonna have a wedding, let the wedding be about the marriage and not about the wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you want your marriage to feel? And like create that kind of experience for the wedding. And that
Yeah.
also means in your own mental state thinking about the wedding.
Yeah.
Like my whole mantra was like, I want my marriage and my wedding to be filled with love and peace and joy.
Yep.
So like, why would I bring a different energy into every moment of wedding planning? Like, why would I
Right.
bring a different energy into you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
every time I tried, that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah.
Um, okay, my next question, is it different when you get engaged or married versus when you are in like long-term committed relationship? In your experience, does it feel different? How is it different?
So um, when we first got together, it was kind of tumultuous because we hadn't taken care of things. So we needed things we had to take care of. So our first 4 or 5 years together were kind of just, they were wonderful being together, but it caused a lot of um, um, distress, let's just say. Okay. So you've got to finish things. You got to finish you can't just say, I've gone, I've left. you've got to get the divorce. You've got to make the break. You've got to be available, right? To do
For
a
new
relationship.
things.
So
Yeah.
we spent a year apart. And when we got back together, I really wanted to get married. And he said, I do not want to get married. And it was a deal breaker for me. We talked about it and talked about it. And then I realized it was okay because I felt safe with him. I loved him. I understood why he didn't want to get married. So I said, it's okay. Well, 4 years later, then he proposed. And I
Mm.
was shocked. I thought he was kidding. Like, I could not believe it because I had already decided
Yeah.
I was fine. I was okay with it. And we got married a year later, which would be tomorrow, 8 years ago tomorrow that we got married. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God,
Timing
happy
is
early
good.
anniversary.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we both said it did feel different. It did feel different
Yeah.
because we said in front of everyone, in front of God and everybody, here we are, we're getting married and we want to do this and we want it to be for life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. That's our
that
intention. We're
is,
both committed to
yeah,
that, trying to make that
that
happen.
is, yep, that is our intention.
Yeah.
And so I think we both have said we feel more settled. We feel safer.
Yeah.
Um, it gives us more of a reason to come back to each other, to the team, right?
Yeah.
As you said. So I don't know, I know it isn't maybe for everybody, but for me, it is definitely, it's been it for
Different.
us, it's been the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been the
Um,
right thing.
I would agree. Getting engaged and married does make it different. It doesn't, how do I want to say this? It didn't change the actual dynamic of the
Right.
relationship. So if you're
Right.
hoping that like marriage is all of a sudden gonna like change like
No.
an element of, no, it's not going to. You are going to change the elements of your relationship by working on
No.
it. But this is what it was like a mindset thing.
Yes.
It was like a mental thing. Um, because you can say all day long that like you're committed and you're going to be there and all that kind of stuff, but like without anything actually tying you
Yeah.
to each other, like there's always that possibility that it's not going to, right? And that might be
You
a little
can
bit of a fear
literally walk
thing.
out the door. You can
Yes.
literally walk out the
Yes.
door. Right.
Even if like you believe and try, like, there's just that possibility.
Yeah.
Um, even getting engaged, but especially getting married, like you are like indicating your ties. And
Yeah.
some people like say like marriage is like a business contract. I kind of get it. Like I get
Yeah.
that because like legally you're tying each to each
Mhm.
to each other. Like divorce is a pain. Like you wouldn't want it,
Yeah.
And like there's all of these elements that like are showing like in more than just words,
Yeah.
I guess that like you are demonstrating both of how much you both are committed to making it work long term by entangling yourselves in these ways that would
Right.
like that are designed to be difficult to untangle. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
like so it's more than just like I'm committed and I'm showing you I'm committed by every day how I'm showing up in the relationship, which of course is important, but it's just like this other element of like I'm willing to actually make it very
Yeah.
difficult for me to be untangled from
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
because I feel so confident and because I really do want to demonstrate
Yep.
to you and create an environment with you where we both like understand how
Yeah.
committed we are, right? Like that
Yeah.
feeling of like, well, we got to make it work because
Yeah.
this is more than just we're dating. Like we
Right.
are married, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Or like I like hopefully you're not just going to be walking out because again, it would be very difficult for
It's,
like
yeah,
that.
to
It's
untangle everything, right?
yes, yes. And that did create a certain psychological safety for sure. I
Yeah.
agree. That was my experience too. And it did settle something
Yeah.
in me that I didn't even realize
Yeah.
wasn't quite as settled. And of course, I mean, realistically, like the same thing could happen. Like something could happen, they could do something
They could walk
tomorrow that
out. Yeah.
changes. They could decide that it's over, like the same, but
Yeah.
but just that element of like you both have made the choice
Yeah.
to like entangle in those ways,
Yep.
knowing that it would be, like there's just
Yeah.
something about that.
That goes back to what I had said earlier. It kind of always has been one of those themes in my life is the belonging.
Yeah,
I wanted to belong to him in all the good ways. And
yeah,
I wanted him to belong to me in all the good ways. And we wanted everyone to know that we belonged, to
yeah,
each other.
yeah,
And then another thing that and you just said the word choosing, right?
mhm,
You choose.
yeah,
And that's how you make a good marriage. Every day you choose, you decide and you choose, and you decide and choose every day what direction it's going to go. If it starts going off the path, guess what? It's not wrong. It's not necessarily off the rails.
Yeah.
As soon as you realize it's moving in the wrong path, you make another choice
Yeah.
and you decide and you're back on track.
Yeah. Well, that is one of my other questions is how, in your opinion, can you stay on the same page with your partner or attempt to stay on the same page with your partner as time passes and you inevitably grow as people and evolve as people? Like, how can you help your relationship evolve together?
You have to find common ground, right? You have to find the things that you have to find at least one thing that you are really, really passionate about together, right? You have to move in the same direction. I don't think it's any different than when you first get together. You just
Yeah.
have to continue. You know what? I know what it is. You have to choose. It goes back to what I just said. You have
Mm-hmm.
to choose and decide every day that at the end of the day, we're going to still be on this path, right? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that we're not going to get wonky sometimes. I'm going to get wonky. He's going to get wonky. But at the end of the day, not the end of the week or the end of the month, the end of the day, we're going to come back,
Yeah.
right? If we're upset with each other, I'm upset with you. I don't want to talk to you, but I still love you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then, so you know what that is? That's not this. And it's not acquiescing. It's being truthful. I'm hurt. I don't like it, but I choose to be here. I'm not going to go stay somewhere else. I'm staying here with you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what else. To me, it is about every day. It's a choice, and I have a sign on my wall. It says accept or change. Right? Accept what is or change what it is.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of what we talked about in looking for a relationship, like all of these things are going to help put you in a position where you can more easily do that with your partner,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yes.
it's really hard to stay on the same page if you were never really on the same page to
If
start
you,
off
yeah,
with, you
if you're
know?
not there from the beginning, right? It is hard to get there because then you're
Mhm.
flipping chapters now. Now
Yeah.
you're flipping chapters trying to figure out where each other are.
Yeah,
And it's hard.
and if you don't have shared values, like what you
Right.
would be making decisions based off is two totally different
Right.
things, you
Right.
know? And yeah, so that would be a big thing. Um, and I also, again, like the more you know yourself, the more you can be honest and bringing to the relationship, and the more you can help ensure that you stay connected. If you are
Yeah.
not connected to yourself, you cannot be connected to another person
Right.
for both partners.
Yeah.
So it's important you have a partner who knows how to be connected to
Right.
themselves
Right.
continuously.
Right.
Like I've also seen relationships end because of that, because the other partner's not really, they don't really know themselves that well,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Right.
And that's a whole other thing. But being able to say, like, throughout time, like, inevitably your own values are going to shift a little bit. Things that are
Yeah.
important to you are
Yeah.
going to shift a little bit. Like, things you need in a relationship are going to shift. Like, your ability to bring that to the table so your partner even has a chance to meet those changing needs,
There
or
you
you
go.
even have a chance to
Right.
decide if this is a change that you can make, if it's
Right.
good, if it is a deal breaker. Like you
Right.
can't even give your relationship the chance to stay connected if you don't know what is true for you and like
Right.
you don't know what's important to you. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I do.
Um and like I just had a conversation with my husband the other day that was kind of along the same things. It was like I'm kind of realizing that this is really important to me in a long-term relationship. And
Hmm.
this is something that I feel like is not so much a thing right now. And like that was a really hard conversation to have.
Yeah.
I was terrified because I
Hmm.
realized it was so important to me that if it was not something that was apparent in this relationship, that might mean that this relationship wasn't going to be something that continued to be the
Yeah.
healthiest, happiest, supportive relationship to me. That was really hard. I did not let the fear of that being a thing keep me from having that conversation because that would just mean denying myself, right?
Right. Right.
Like I had to have trust in my relationship and in myself that
Yep.
if I was feeling that that was important, then it was something important to bring it up and to give my partner like the opportunity and like the chance to like meet that or for us to find common ground. Dealing with in-laws and families.
Oh,
Yes. Oof. I'm just gonna give my number one tip and I'm gonna let Tina talk about this.
no, no, no. How about I give my number one tip?
Well, we both can talk about this. Here's the thing. You have to be on the same page with your partner about family stuff. Like you
You do.
just have to.
Yeah.
If you are dating somebody who is not interested in being on a team with you,
Right.
even if for some reason that's different than the family stuff, run,
Yeah.
run,
Yeah.
run as fast as you can, because it kind of doesn't matter what the family's doing, what's happening with in-laws if you guys are a unit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the second thing, biggest thing that feels so important to me, you handle your own respective families, period. Every
Yeah.
time, in every way.
Yeah.
You should never be in a situation where you are having to handle communication or dealing with something that has to do with your in-laws. You are not the point person.
Yeah.
Your partner is the point person for their own family every single time.
Mhm.
And the messaging is always, we as a team feel this way, unless it is the partner who says, no, this is really coming from me.
Yeah.
But it's never, this is something they want. And so we got, no, it's like, it's always a united front. And the
Mhm.
partner is the point person for their own family. Always, 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 always.
Yeah.
Period. Those are
Yeah.
two of my big things. And Tina, I will turn it over to you.
I've just got one. Keep your opinions to yourself.
So what do you mean by saying like be wary of the opinions and maybe just being like discerning of when you share opinions?
At the end of the day, it's their family. Even though they love you and you love them, it's their family. And if a disagreement comes up, their family is going to choose their person and your family is going to choose yours. So be very careful of how you word things, right? Like I have stepkids. I'm not their mom. I've never tried to be their mom. They have great moms. They don't need another mom. Um, but sometimes we overstep because we think that our relationship is different than it is, even though they love us and we love them. One thing I can say about JP is he never oversteps. He's always there, open arms to, and I'm so grateful he's always that way. And I love my stepkids. I call them my bonus kids. I don't call them stepkids, but I love my bonus kids and he loves my kids and we love our grandchildren equally. But in the end, he's their dad, right? And I'm my kid's mom. So you have to be careful of those relationships that you don't interfere.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you saying is like definitely a respect thing, but also kind of like
Yeah.
stay in your lane, you know?
Yeah. Stay in your lane. Yeah.
Because and I don't have the beautiful experience of having bonus kids, which I think is actually beautiful. And again,
It
even
is
like the
really sweet.
Akashic records thing, like you're meant to be in certain people's lives, you know? Um, period. But for the what we were talking about, even if it's just like your partner's relationships with their family. I
Mhm.
know we have a lot of people that listen who maybe identify like with the helpers or the fixers or the rescuers, which is its own thing, which we're going to talk about in victim consciousness episodes. Please
Yeah.
be so excited for this episode. But like it is not your business. And you trying to
Right.
make something like that your business creates problems that are not problems.
Yeah.
And frankly, it keeps your partner from dealing with their own stuff. Like you don't
Yeah.
need to be stepping in for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, how if they're treating you a certain way,
Right.
or if they're disrespecting certain boundaries or values that you have as a family,
Hmm.
that's another story, right?
Yeah.
Um, but like if you just kind of don't like the way that that your partner's parents or their like siblings or something treats them, that's not your
Right.
business. It's not
Yeah.
your
Yeah. Then I am wildly protective of how people treat JP
Mhm,
because he's so kind and he takes care of so many people and he goes out of his way for so many people. So I am very aware if he is slighted. And that is one time where you will see the lion come out of me,
mhm.
you know? And so I have to be very aware of that because I have caused offense by
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
Even though I feel justified in feeling defensive of him, the fact of the matter is that I caused offense to someone that I love.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It just doesn't, I just have never found that it really does the
yeah,
kind of
it
good that
doesn't,
you really want it to do,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
right,
if really what you want is like harmony and people all being
yeah,
able to kind of hold their own space and be respected, like you coming in, like it doesn't do what you
yeah,
think it's going to do. Really
nope,
what it does is it soothes your own stuff
yeah,
and it's about you. It's not really about the
yeah.
situation, right? Um,
It's funny
so
you say
let
that,
it
Jake. Zach always says, Mama, it's not about you, it's about Papa. He tells me that all the time. It's not about you, Mama.
What a
Yeah,
fun and gentle way to be like,
yeah,
Tina, go on, you
yeah.
know?
Not about you, Mama.
And I love
Yeah,
that too. That's another fun little tip. Like, have fun ways to be able to like acknowledge things with each other.
yeah,
You know, I think that's one of the really special things that can happen in
yeah.
really good
Calm down,
partnerships.
girl.
Yeah, like you can say things to each other that are actually kind of like big things, but like it's
Yeah,
said in such a playful and loving way that like it doesn't like your partner's not defensive with you, you know?
right, right.
Um, and that's one of the things I love about my husband Jen is that he has such a good sense of humor and some of the ways that he just so playfully and really like in a funny way kind of calls out if I'm like a little tense
Yeah,
or a little snappy or something. Like it makes me laugh and it dissolves the whole
yeah,
moment and it's fine, you know?
yeah.
Um, but yeah, in terms of stuff with the family, again, if it has to do with just between that person and their family, let it be between them.
Let it be.
But
Yeah.
when it is about your unit, your
Hmm.
home, your space, your resources as a couple, time, money, energy, whatever, kids, like even how they're treating you, that is something that you guys as a unit have to decide what's important to you. And then it's up to your partner to be the enforcer and the point person from that
Yeah.
point forward.
Yep.
And if they're not able or willing to do that, that is a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Go to therapy
Yeah.
about that. That is also a manifestation and a representation of their respect for you
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
energy. That's like a whole other part where things get
Yeah.
exposed, you know?
Yeah.
Um, Not okay. So that's our 2 cents on in-laws.
Yes.
Um, okay, I think really our last ones is one for you, and then I think also TJ might come and give his 2 cents about it as a fun
Yeah.
little thing for everybody.
Yes.
Um, this is kind of like a sweet note to leave it on. Is how did you what did you really hmm, I guess just like very simply, like how did you know that PJ was the one? It's PJ.
JP.
JP. Oh my
JP.
gosh. I
You can
literally
marry me after try to marry me after JP and PJ, but I ain't going there.
Oh my gosh, I do. I swear I'm dyslexic, so I fully like
It's
switched.
okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're gonna come back to this. So tell me, Tina, how did you know that JP was the one?
And I am going to read to you because I really thought about this and it was so
Oh,
easy to answer.
oh
Okay.
my gosh, yes.
I felt loved, safe, seen, heard, valued. I belonged. I'm going to cry. So I'm sorry, everybody. I examined my anxiety around the relationship and I learned that I was living in fear of repeating the past, of being ignored, unloved, unwanted, and left behind. So I looked at the man and I saw who he was and that he was not the person who would ignore me, hurt me, or leave me. He kept his word in the small things. He listened to me and he was willing to make changes when they made a better life for us. I looked at me and I saw that I wanted to let my guard down. I wanted to be honest, vulnerable, and open about what I wanted and needed and who I was. And he sees me and he stays. That's it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, why would I go and why would I not want to love him?
Oh,
Right?
I love that.
He is the best person I know.
Ugh,
I
that's how
just,
I feel about Jin too, is that like
yeah,
he's literally an angel of a human. Like
yeah,
everybody deserves a Jin. Like
yeah,
that's how I
yeah,
feel. And I feel like
yep. I
that's a
really,
really good sign. If you're with
yeah,
somebody who wholeheartedly, not like, oh, accept this one thing, like no,
right.
wholeheartedly you can
Mhm.
say, like everybody deserves insert name of partner.
Yep.
Like they're
Yeah.
truly, yeah, Jin is like the best. I don't understand how he exists, like as a
I
human,
know.
you know?
Yeah. How are you mine? I fell in love with JP when I was 17 years old.
Oh.
And so we're having an interracial relationship. He's black. And I'm not, as you can see, if you can see the podcast. And in 1978, that was a huge ordeal, you
Mhm.
know? And so my parents said, no, you can't do it. Your life will be too hard. And um, 27 years later, we got back together
Mm.
and we had a rocky few years because it was a little bit like listening to the twin flame, a little twin flamey, right?
Yeah.
But it really wasn't twin flames. I think he's my soulmate. I don't have any,
Yeah.
actually don't have any question about that.
Yeah.
Um, but when we took that year apart and we really looked at what we wanted in our life and we said, this is what we want. Because when my ex-husband met him, he said, she has loved you her whole life.
Oh.
And I didn't even know that I had ever spoken of him around my ex-husband. My
Wow.
kids said, "Oh, Mom, you've always loved him."
Oh.
I got a message, two messages yesterday from two girls that used to go roller skating with us when I met him. And they said, "Oh my God, it's about time. The two of you were so in love back then."
Oh.
Everybody knew but you, evidently.
Oh
But
my
it wasn't
gosh.
that. It was just the world kind of got in the way of things, right?
Yeah.
And so we make the most of it
Yeah.
because we know what it's like to to have a life where there's this little part of you that you long for
Yeah.
in such a good way.
Yeah.
Not a crazy needy way, but just something that you keep thinking, there was something there.
Yeah.
There was really something there,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And here we are, and there is something here.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love that. I think that's a beautiful story.
yeah.
I'll give my 2 cents. Me and my
I
husband
love
were
it.
not high school sweethearts, so in case you have a little bit of a different experience, then maybe this will resonate for you. Um, how did I know that he was the one? Like all of those things we talked about at the beginning aligned, first of all. Um, but I think more like abstractly or kind of like, you know, again, I just like he's the best person,
Mhm,
honestly, like the best person. And I always want to know more of what he's thinking. Like
mhm.
I always want to know like more of
Yeah,
like what's going on inside of that head of
yeah.
his, you know? And I genuinely love who I am around him, and I genuinely love being around him, you know? Like the life that I was having with him, it was all of the things that I wanted. It was fun, it was joyful, it was peaceful, it was tender and loving and sweet and playful and open and gentle. You know, like all of the things I wanted for my life is how it felt when and within our relationship and together. And all of those green flags and things you wanted in the relationship, I could look at the relationship and they were there. But I just look at him and I adore him, and he looks at me and he adores me, adores me. It is so important, women, that you are with somebody who like is straight up obsessed and adores you in like that healthy way. So important. But that you also feel that same way about them.
That they make you feel like we're looking, right?
Yes.
I just love him. I just think everybody should know JP because you would just love him if you
Yeah.
met him.
I feel the
Michaela
same way
said,
about Jen.
yeah, Michaela said, "Oh my God, he's so kind.
Yeah.
He's so kind. What
Yeah.
a heart guy," she said. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's him. Yeah. And she goes,
Oh.
"Oh, he loves you." I'm like, yes, he does.
Oh my gosh, you guys are so cute. So if you guys are not looking on the video of the podcast, um, Tina's man, he's here. He's here with us. And he's been so kind to come on and agree to answer a couple questions to wrap up this episode for us. Um, so Tina, I feel like you have some of the questions that you know that we're going to ask him.
Mhm.
So why don't you ask him the first one for us? Pick whichever one you want.
All right. So the first question I want to ask you.
We're having a
You're
giggle. This
not
is
on the
funny.
spot or anything. No. Okay. So I've already said in the interview that, I'd been sick for 21 years. And when I got together with you, I was sick. And you've done an amazing job of supporting me and helping me. So I would like you to just, if you don't mind, share a little bit about how or why you did that. Was it hard?
And for anybody listening, whether it's husbands, wives, whatever, like thinking about how we can be most supportive to our
Mhm.
partners, just in
Yeah.
general. Like what 2 cents, what tips would you give people about like how and or why it's important to be supportive to their partners?
Well, in my case, Tina's entire life, she has done so much for so many different people that I felt it was time for someone to help her. And I took on that role, and everything and anything that I had to do, I did.
Mhm.
And now she's healthy again.
Mm, I
Yeah.
love that. And how and I guess yeah too, like if, there's couples that are listening and maybe they're earlier in marriage or they're, in a part of their marriage where they're kind of reevaluating how they can come back together to create a healthy marriage, like what recommendations would you give them about how they can be most supportive to each other?
Well, I would have them look in the mirror and say, what if the shoe was on the other foot? What if you were the one that was sick? Would you want to go through this alone? And no, you wouldn't.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
key to success is having that partner that's willing to stand by you every step of the way.
Mm,
And I think that's what we've done.
Yeah.
mm. And I love that because I think that applies to like so many more situations, even just outside of if you have a partner who's
Yeah.
sick, like kind of that mentality of like, what's really going on here? They
Yeah.
probably just need support. They probably need to be seen, heard,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And like, if I really needed that, like, how would I want
Mhm.
somebody to respond to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And am I really gonna do the work? Am I really gonna take the action to embody that partner
Mhm.
for my person?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. And the second question I would love to ask you, because I just asked Tina, um, for people who are who, maybe haven't found their person just yet, and they think about, dating and finding their like life partner, husband, wife, whatever it might be, and maybe some anxiety about being able to spot who the person is, right? Like knowing who the right person is. Um, with all that in mind,
No
um,
pressure. No pressure.
with all that in mind, I would just love for you to share your perspective on how you knew that like Tina was the one for you, that she was your person and she was going to be the one that you had that like life partnership with.
This is actually kind of funny. Uh, Tina walked into the skating rink and I was roller skating,
We were 17.
and she asked her girlfriend, who is that? And her girlfriend told her it was John Pruitt, and she said, I love him.
That's true.
Oh my gosh.
Classic, classic. The football player and the cheerleader.
Mhm.
Oh.
This is the first time I'm actually going to admit this. I've had a very stellar athletic career. And Tina knew nothing
Nothing.
about me, except that her father told her that I was fast. She knew nothing
I didn't.
about what I did in football, nothing about going to Syracuse or anything else. But as time went on, she put together, well, my mother had a scrapbook, and Tina asked my mother if she could have the scrapbook and redo it. So Tina took all those articles, had them laminated, put in order. Through that scrapbook, she learned everything that I had done because I never told her anything, never told her a single word. And after she put the scrapbook together, she told me what I did. And I just knew at that point, you're going to go through all the time that you did to get to know me the way that you did. Yes, you are the one.
Mm,
Because no one has ever put that kind of time in. So I
mm.
knew right then and there that, yeah, she's a keeper.
You never did tell me that.
I have never told you
You
that.
have never told me that.
Tina,
That
we're
was
getting a live reaction. What is your
Yeah.
reaction to hearing that for the first time? Give us the tea.
Wow. And you know what? That's interesting because it took me over 30 days to do that. And I'm talking from morning till night when I wasn't with him or with my, like sleeping, I was working on that scrapbook. And I remember his reaction to it was like big, but I didn't realize.
Oh.
Not until now.
No.
Oh. Well,
So
I just want to share, JP, the one of the things we talked about at the beginning as being such a good sign that like a relationship is a healthy one and a right one is that you feel seen for who you really are, and you can just be who you really are. So I think that you unintentionally like wrapped it all up in a nice little bow,
Yeah.
talking about the fact that it was her effort and her genuine ability to see and appreciate who you are, like all parts of you. That was that thing that like clicked to be able to say, like, yeah, this
Ah,
is it. This is the right kind of thing,
Yep.
and to be able to just like really love who you are.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the magic.
Yeah. That is the magic.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I don't want to take up any more of your time, Tina. I know I've had like hours of yours,
It
and
was
JP,
awesome.
honored us by like coming in and stopping in for this. Who knows? Maybe the crowd is going to have questions and we're going to bring you guys back for some questions. But I just wanted to say, as we close it out today, it has been an honor. And JP, I know you weren't here for a lot of it, but frankly, your relationship and your time together is what allowed for a lot of this wisdom to come through. So I thank you as well for just in
Yeah,
that
you're
way
welcome.
contributing to it. And I just can't wait for everybody to hear this episode. So thank you so much for
Thank
doing
you.
He's
this.
definitely a touchdown.
He was waiting to say it. He was like, I was
He
waiting
was,
for my
wasn't he?
football
With
pun.
his Syracuse shirt on.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Well,
Yeah.
Tina, thank you. This has been literally the most wonderful, beautiful conversation. You have such a golden heart and so much wisdom about this. And thank you for just being so honest and so vulnerable with everybody, because I know a lot of people are really going to benefit from this.
I'm glad. And I love and adore you, and I'm always rooting for you.
Oh, thank
Always.
you.
You're
All right,
welcome.
so we're going to wrap up the episode there. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of Breakthroughs with Bre. I would love to hear your feedback about these relationship episodes with Tina. If you have more conversations, there were lots of things that we didn't cover that we probably could have, but we went with what we felt guided to. Please share your feedback. If there are other topics not related to relationships that you really want to hear, send me a DM, comment on the video, send me an email. I'm so excited about everything that's coming through in these episodes and would love to be able to speak to or channel through information on what feels like it's going to be most impactful for you. So until next time, until next Monday, I hope you guys have a great one, and I'll see you then.